Hi, this is Emily, and this is the M Dash. If this is your first time here, I'm so grateful that you found your way here. And if you've been on this journey with me from the beginning, thank you for coming back. This last week has really made me think about scars. Not the kind you see, but the ones we carry internally. The static, the noise, what happened to us, the voices we hear. And when I really was thinking about what was my episode going to be about, it was clear, especially when this quote came across my path. And it's from Vincent van Gogh. If you hear a voice within you say, you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. That was a wow for me. Because you think that one of the most world's famous painters obviously had that same static, that same noise, the same scars. And look what it became. Look what he overcame. And that voice, we all have it. And it gets louder when life gets harder. When things get hard, the self-talk gets louder. Shame creeps in. Disappointment creeps in. Fear overtakes us. And the hardest part isn't what's happening around you. It's what you start saying about yourself. Think about it. When something difficult arises in your life, what is the loudest thing that's coming to you? It's the voices in your head. It's from past experiences, right? It's something we've experienced before. And so we already know, we think we know the outcome. So fear creeps in, shame creeps in, or maybe it's the first time you've ever experienced it. So shame feels different. It feels like, what did we do wrong? Or the disappointment that how could I let myself get here? Or how could this happen to me? And we can't live in that. Things happen to all of us. Life is ebb and flow. But fear, disappointment, and shame, it's how you speak to yourself about those things. And the goal isn't to get rid of the scars. It's just stop letting them define how we speak to ourselves. It's about naming the feeling instead of becoming it. So when the thought comes to your mind, dig deep inside and think to yourself, what is this feeling? Is this shame? Is this disappointment? Is this fear? Is this regret? The number one thing we can do is name it. Because if we just suppress it and we say, okay, and you just try to push through it all and just push, it's just going to shove down until you explode like a volcano, and then you're probably going to have more than one surface at once. We've been there. I've been there. And that's where this kind of episode came from. It's personal experiences each week when I come to you. It's me sharing things that I experience or come across that I want to feel relatable to you. Because we're not alone in this journey. And sometimes it really might feel like we are. But the number one thing we can do is experience life. And experiencing life is feeling those feelings. A couple of episodes, I referenced the movie, now I can't think of it, the Disney movie with all the emotions. It'll come to me. But why I say that is we all have to experience those feelings, right? We have to experience them. But in experiencing those, to me, it's naming them. So when something comes up, it's saying to yourself, what is that? What is surfacing? when we go through things, like even for me, it's like I have to have pep talks with myself. And as strange as that may sound, try it. You know, the biggest thing we can do is be our number one fan. We love ourselves, right? So we love ourselves enough so we can love another person, love another human, etc., etc. Because the only way to silence that voice is to do the thing anyway. And that's what Vincent van Gogh was saying. If your mind is saying, you can't paint, you're not going to be good at it, paint it anyway. If your voice is saying, don't try for that, you won't win, try. Right? Those voices in our head, some people would say that's intuition. It's not always intuition. It's emotion speaking louder in a voice that makes you feel doubt, makes you feel hesitancy, makes you feel like it can't work out. It can. And sometimes it's not overnight. We have to go on this journey and live these feelings and live these emotions, but not to let them overtake you. So if your mind is telling you that you're not okay right now, maybe the truth is you're just in the middle of becoming. Let me refine it for you. It's not silence the voice or push through it. It's hear it, name it, but don't let it lead. The goal isn't to get rid of the voice. The goal is to stop letting it make your decisions. That's it. Think about it. You won't try for something or do something or give up or curl up in a ball because that is so loud and it's overtaking you. I'll shape it like this. People can look so confident on the outside, but inside, there's noise, there's doubt, there's still that voice. And I think for a long time, we think the goal is just to get rid of it. Like if we just heal enough or grow enough, it'll disappear. But it doesn't. You could have overcome something so big, so personal, but that voice will still creep up. I don't have the science behind it. But there is a lot of neuroscience in what we think about and how we shape what we think. And there's a lot of neuroscience about the energy of it, right? I've talked about this before. When you create the words I am before something, then you're already putting that out there that I am this. And so more things will come to you that feel that same way. I know I've experienced it. And it's not few and far between that I do. And it's not because I'm not human, because I'm not going to say that you aren't going to accidentally say, I say accidentally, but if you're exhausted, you're exhausted. Okay? You can name that. You just need to feel what it's coming from, what is causing that, right? And what I'm learning to do is not silence it. It's about hearing it and naming it and then choosing something different. So say a thought comes up that says, I'm not good enough. Tell yourself, okay, I hear that. I am working on being better every single day, right? I'm just giving an example of how maybe you change that in your mind. Like you honor the thought that's coming up, but you counteract it with something positive. You hear it, but you counteract it with something else. And it can be about anything. It could be work related. It could be personal. These thoughts are going to come up, and I think sometimes, we get caught up in the word trigger, what triggers us. And, I don't have all the science behind it, and I really wasn't going to dive into those things today. But I do feel like when something is similar, those feelings come up And we relate them to a bunch of different things. And maybe that one thing is going on in your life. You think you're not worthy of 1,000 other things because that one thing is playing in your mind and it feels like the heaviest thing in the world. And I can relate. But we have to lift those weighted blankets and we have to talk through those things. I used to say all the time, and I probably have said it on at least one episode, I always said, when in doubt, walk it out. I'm a big walker. And I talked about before how I used to be a runner, and I no longer can do that. But I have so much gratitude that I have 2 legs that move, and 1 foot goes in front of the other. And I think about that in daily life. It is about taking the small steps, because each small step moves you toward the bigger win. And the smaller steps we can take is feeling these emotions, but naming these emotions and understanding that scars don't define us. And I would say, how blessed am I to have the scars I have? Because it never would have brought me to exactly where I am right now. And I would say that I wouldn't have a podcast. I wouldn't have published a book. I wouldn't have all these ideas circling in my mind had I not gotten one scar after the next scar after the next scar. I wouldn't have met these new connections in my life or these new friends I have made. I wouldn't have so many things that I think are true blessings in my life had I not experienced the scars. But the one thing I'm truly working on is naming the emotion and not just letting it bubble up and boil over. Because suppressing things only makes it harder for you. And then it's going to be multiple things coming up. But if it is, sit with it, name it, breathe through it. I was listening to something today, and he was saying that you have to name your demons. And that hit me, because that's exactly what these are. And I feel like we name demons are only named really for bad habits, bad things that we create. But the negative self-talk is just as much as a demon as the others, and the ones that are trying to tell us that we aren't worthy of this, we aren't good enough for this, we made that mistake, so goodness, we're going to make more mistakes. But you know what? We are human, and we are going to do things sometimes that we are going to question later, because at the time it felt right or it felt good, but we learn in the process, we name them, and we put one foot in front of the other. We pick up the paintbrush and we paint. We pick up the pen and we write. And we move forward. But we move forward understanding the emotion. It's not about pushing through. It's about acknowledging it. Because pushing through almost makes you feel like you're going to ignore it and pretend like it's not there. But that's not what this is. This is looking at it and saying, I hear you. I see you, but you don't get to run this. Just like you would have a conversation with someone that was hurting you. Have the communication with yourself. I saw a lady recently that had a heart attack, and I think she was in her early 50s. And they call it the broken heart syndrome. The medical term, and I probably will say this wrong, is Toku cardiomyopathy. Myopathy. See, I told you I probably wouldn't say it right. It's a treatable heart condition, but it's often triggered by intense emotional, physical stress. And I couldn't help but think it was coming to me at a time that I am experiencing some things, and I thought it was a wake up call. Like, whew, like the number one thing I want to be is healthy. I always say health is wealth, and you probably heard some emotion behind that, because I got emotion just seeing the woman. It was a video, and she was in the hospital, and she said she had a lot of intense things happening, but she was healthy. She was healthy otherwise, and grief can cause this, accidents can cause this, but these things mimic heart attacks without blocked arteries. So they mimic the symptom of having a heart attack, and it primarily affects women and pre-existing conditions of anxiety, depression, those type of things. And I share that because I think as women, and I know that a lot of men listen to this podcast too, so I don't want to make this just angled at women, but a lot of times, and I'm going to say this because I say I'm going to make this at women, but I think probably men do this more. I think men probably suppress the emotions more. Women tend to be more emotional. Now, I will say I was raised by my father, and he raised us to be strong, independent people. And I do notice that I have a habit of putting on the armor and pretending everything is okay when inside the noise is extremely loud. But it's why I've been working on this, and it's where my book was born, and why I finally published my book was a lot of things I did to get through things was working with myself. It was having those conversations with myself and recognizing what was coming up and where it was surfacing from. And I've overcome a lot. So I'm not going to sit here and say I am not super proud of myself, because I absolutely am. But it's like I talked about last week on a loop. Your mind will go back to a familiar feeling or a situation when you experience something. And that's why I talk today about naming it and owning those scars, but correcting them with positive self-talk. Like I said, say to those emotions and those self-talk, I hear you, I see you, but you don't get to run this. And if it's comfortable for you when these come up, put your hand on your heart. When you put your one hand on your heart and one hand on your stomach, what I have learned is that regulates your nervous system to say we are safe. I don't know the science behind it. You can look it up if you want to challenge me on this. But in any meditation practice or any kind of positive self-talk, the number one thing you can do is put your hand on your heart. Feel your heartbeat and say what you're trying to say to yourself with feeling. I am resilient. I am brave. Most people tag bravery to fighting a war and jumping out of an airplane. And those things are super incredibly brave. But standing up for yourself, to yourself, that's brave. When you don't let something overtake you, a situation, a person, your own self-talk, that's brave. You are brave. You are brave every day, and keep going. When I say small steps can be getting out of bed. Small steps can be grateful for just the cup of coffee in your hand. When you do things for yourself, those are small steps, and those create really big wins because you didn't give up. Just name it, feel it, understand it. Talk to yourself about it. And that might feel super uncomfortable in the beginning. But the worst thing we can do is keep shoving them down in a box, shoving them down, to where we don't know what's happening to us. And maybe that's what scars really are. Not something to hide or fix, but something that taught you how to recognize your own patterns, your own voice, and your own reactions, and choose differently. The voice might not go away, but it doesn't have to be in charge anymore. Blessing for the scars. Tonight, I don't ask for the silence of my thoughts. I ask for the strength to hear them without becoming them. I release the need to fight every feeling and instead choose to understand what's rising within me. I am not my doubt. I am not my fear. I am the one who notices and chooses differently. May I meet myself with honesty, without judgment, without punishment, without turning my own